finally, we have, I talked about timelining before too. So one more thing that I just wanted to cover is I've mentioned those before in our previous sessions, where it's really cool if you can actually parse all the artifacts you have and you put it into a timeline for more context. It's more work, but also more context. And for this, you can use tools such as Plazolog to timeline, which basically plows through an entire disk image and then parses all the artifact that it knows about and puts them into a container. And you can then convert the container, parse it into, dump it into a CSV or into other tools such as this one. This is the time sketch that we've covered already previously in terms of what it does. But I've also put this case into one of my time sketch instances. And for just a quick minute, I want to show you that as well. So let me get to my, this case, browser window. This is my workshop time sketch, and I have a few things that we can look into. Now, we've parsed the disk, and we have probably a lot of entries. If you want to look into it, this looks similar to Splunk, right? So we can actually use this kind of like as a SIM, but it's actually based on OpenSearch, more like ELK, but also it actually allows us to tag events and to be just more specific. It's made for forensic analysis, like what we do here, timeline analysis. So we don't have any ongoing data going in here. We have the data that we got from this disk. We could actually put additional data in here from other disks, for example, and correlate those, which would be really cool. But we have, let's see, 1.5 million events in here. So basically, somewhere in the 1.5 million events, we can find a lot of information about this incident. That would be crazy. So we need to find ways of how to tune it down. Obviously, one way is to add a time filter so that we're only looking at events at the particular time that we're interested in. That will probably help a lot. But we can also just keyword search, right? If we don't know what we're looking at, we could as well just look for update exe.hta and just see what sticks, right? For now, we don't even know if we have anything going on here. But yeah, you look at that. We have 25 hits just for update exe.hta. And the way this shows is that we have the time, we have the message, the information of what we're looking at. We can see where this is from, which artifact. And we also want to add the data type so I can show you actually how this worked. So now we can see we are looking at artifacts from all over the place. We are looking at FS, so file system stat, that is from the NTFS. We're looking at the USN journal artifact. We're looking at Firefox places page visited artifact. We're looking at Windows event log that was parsed, and so on. And registry operations, everything is in here. So basically anything that sticks, right? If we have information in any of the, I think, dozens of artifacts, probably hundreds of artifacts that were parsed, anything that sticks would show up here, even in chronological order. So now we can actually work with it, right? We can see that update exe.hta was downloaded. We can see when it was, the USN journal, when it was file create, file closed, when it was written to the file location. We can see Firefox place visited, where this was actually navigated to. And then we can also see a process ID where this file from the Windows, we can see a Windows event log where we have file created. So this was actually Sysmon capturing that this file was created. Then we have the NTFS, MFT, or USN journal tracking that this update.exe was created. And then we have, at some point, Windows event logs that are saying, hey, this update was still captured in here. There was a process created based on it. So this basically is evidence that we have Sysmon event identifier 1. So we have a process creation event. And if we look into this part here, it's a little easier to read. We have MSHTA that was executing update exe.hta and then creating this process, right? And now we have the process GUID. And like we've seen last time, by tracing the process GUID, you can see everything this process was doing. So as always, Sysmon is magic, but if you don't have it, there's other places to go about it. And yeah, so without like, too much like sticking around with this for too long, there's just a few more things that we can look for. For example, anybody else who might have visited windowsupdate.com. Let me see. Yes. No, well, in our case, obviously just a single user, but this could have been done in multiple cases, right? So you have multiple disks. You just put them in here and see, hey, what sticks? Do we have windowsupdate.com / port 80,000 access from anywhere else? We have this user navigating to it through the Firefox places visited. We have Windows event records that are basically DNS queries that are evidence that there was a DNS query for this domain. We have another place visited that actually goes to /update.exe.hda. So this is where we downloaded it. We have then the file stream where we can see there's a file that was downloaded and also included this particular domain. So really cool stuff. And lots of queries that you could manually, of course, become creative here with. But we have seen processes were executed, right? We have seen PowerShell processes too, actually, previously. But when update.exe.hda was executed, there was a new PowerShell process. If we take this process ID, this tool is really cool. I have actually some saved searches. So there's this process. This is the process ID we would have seen through the execution previously. And now we can see everything that this process did, right? Like we did previously in Splunk. We can now see, based on all the event logs that we have this process ID stored in, we can see everything that happens. So it was executed here. PowerShell console starting up. And then we have, at some point when PowerShell is started up, we have a script block that is capturing the payload of the initial, when this process was created, it executed a PowerShell script in order to facilitate encryption and then establish command and control. The script that was used to do so is now captured in here because this is a 4104 PowerShell event log ID. And then there's more, and there's stuff that we would have not seen otherwise because this is the decoded pieces of this particular handshake that was going on there to establish this command and control all the way. And then we have network connection that this process created. We can even see the location that it was going out to port 9000 on this Amazon instance. And what's the coolest part is, let's scroll down here. We can then see, there's also a time chart, can also see for how long this process was going on for. So in this case, over an hour. And then once this was established, we can see, let me scroll down here, all the threes. So those are network connection detected. This is our beaconing that we have identified previously so much. And if we go and put actually filter them out from our view because there's just too many, we can now just see the true positives of everything else that happened outside of the network connection. So basically scripts that were executed. We scroll down a little. It's all 4104. And as you can already see, this is the content of the payload that was used in order to execute commands on our system. I could now look at the payload, the plain text payload, to understand what was executed on my system all the time throughout this. So, it's not just one particular execution. These are, if you look into timestamps, there's one up here. And then later on, there might be one up there. So there's a bunch, receive agent job, execute the agent job, stop the agent job. We can even see the commands that were executed by the user, by the attacker, on our system on the shell and the command terminal, for example. So everything they executed is covered in the script block logs that happen to be captured in here. We even see a registry value set. So this is like one of the outliers here, right? This might be our persistence mechanism. And why time sketch is so cool is not just the search part, but a few other things. You have already seen I tagged certain things, right? I tagged them and I have all starred events, and you can now basically share this with your team can come in here, you can collaborate, you can start them, you can actually label them, you can work on the same timeline in order to see what's bad, what's suspicious, what's false positives, things along those lines. I've also created a label for exfil. So now these are the entries that are evidence of data exfiltration that I found. So really cool, the tagging part. And two more features on this one, because you can take this much further, right? This is just basic searching, but two more features on this one that I want to show you is you can even dump in Sigma rules. right? And I already know based on the payload that I found, we're probably dealing with some command and control agent. And if we look up the exact payload, we would find that this is based on Empire command and control framework. Now, if we know Empire has been used, we could Google Sigma rules that basically allow us to look for patterns in logs. And I've done so. There is this cool site detection.fyi, which has a bunch of Sigma rules for all kinds of things. I have found a Sigma rule that basically detects these kind of operations when command line contains no profile, non-interactive W, window hidden, and so on in different shapes and forms. That's what usually Empire always executes an agent with. This is just a given. This is the way how Empire does it. So if you have a chance to capture those, you can use this Sigma rule. And I know I do because I have Sysmon on it. I put in a Sigma rule into TimeSketch and I saved it. And it is this one actually for Empire PowerShell launch parameters. So author Florian Roth, which is pretty famous for especially creating a bunch of Sigma rules, a ton of them, coming up with it actually. And then we have search here. If I just click search, now we have, based on the Sigma rule, identified logs that match. So you can apply Sigma through TimeSketch. Really cool. And lastly, we already have an indicator. We have a network indicator, our IP address. We search for that, and we have events that all basically have a match with this particular indicator too. Cool stuff, right? So this is just a few ways of how you can use TimeSketch, but that's why I like it, because it's very flexible. You can do things that you wouldn't be able to do otherwise. So adding your indicators as you go with the investigation, they would pop up automatically, adding your Sigma rules, running some sophisticated searches, or not even as sophisticated based on our case here, will get you pretty far.